Thank you very much. Just 3 weeks ago, I stood before Council and the residents of Johannesburg on behalf of the multi-party government to outline our vision for Johannesburg, building a city of opportunity. While our problems are vast and at times complex, they certainly aren't insurmountable. And in order to solve these problems, we must start somewhere and build on from there. Therefore, we've termed the short-term phase of change for the city a golden start. In rolling out a golden start for the city of Johannesburg, the multi-party government has broadly identified 7 strategic objectives that will be the force behind our program of action and service delivery for the city. And these are as follows. Number 1, a city that gets things right, the basics right, a safe and secure city, a caring city, a business-friendly city, an inclusive city, a well-run city, and a smart city. As the multi-party government, we stand firmly as one behind these objectives, and we want to work together with the residents of Johannesburg to achieve them. The reality is that fixing Johannesburg and building a city of opportunity requires not only political will, which we're not short of, but it also requires the city to have money in the bank to properly fund and manage our service delivery program. Over the last 2 years, like many of the residents who've been and continue to be under sustained financial pressure, the city has also had to battle with a harsh macroeconomic environment fueled by the COVID-19 pandemic and exacerbated by the July 2021 unrest. This is our reality, and we must do everything as the city, together with our residents, to work with what we have so that we can work towards stabilizing our finances and in turn accelerating service delivery. It starts with getting the basics right, combating corruption and enforcing the city's bylaws. As such, as of today, we'll be intensifying Operation Buya Mthetho with a focus on aggressively collecting monies owed to the city by government at all levels, residents, as well as businesses. In this light and in the spirit of enforcing this idea that the bylaws of the city and the laws of South Africa apply to all of us, regardless of rank or status, I have written to the Gauteng provincial government to bring to their attention the millions of much-needed rands that they owe to the city of Johannesburg, noting that if they fail to pay, we will cut them off. The monies owed to the city amount to 841,441,441 rands and 53 cents, with the Gauteng Department of Health leading the pack. The breakdown ranges from the Gauteng Department of Health, with over 383 million rands owed to the city, to the least owing, which is social development, with 526,000 rands owed to the city. Once collected, these are rands that the city will use to keep our streets and parks safe and clean, to ensure fair rebates on services for vulnerable residents, to build and staff more clinics, and to build quality, affordable housing closer to economic opportunities as part of the Inner City Rejuvenation Project, to name but a few projects. Given previous positive engagements with the Gauteng provincial government, we're confident that the leaders in these spheres will ensure that their municipal bills are settled so that we, as the city, can fully dedicate the work of the multi-party government to the program of service delivery. Unfortunately, we've had less than fruitful engagements with some registered ratepayers in Region F, which is the inner city region. And as we speak, as part of Operation Buya Mthetho, officials from City Power and Joburg Water are cutting off the services of 10 of the worst offenders in the said region, who collectively owe the city and its residents an estimated 33 million rands, with the top offender owing 10 million rands. Delinquent ratepayers, government, residents, and businesses hamper the work of the city, which is unacceptable and untenable and untenable state of affairs that we're working to rectify across the city. We want to work with the residents of the city, and as previously stated, we are aware of the financial position that many Joburg residents find themselves in, which makes it difficult to pay the city for services rendered, although we must distinguish these residents from those who simply refuse to pay. Given the financial position of some residents, we will be relaunching the debt rehabilitation program aimed at residents who are struggling to pay their rates, taxes, and levies. And in order to avoid an "I did not know" scenario, the city will be running an awareness campaign across various platforms. Further to this program, in order to increase residents' access to their municipal invoices, we've developed a smartphone application that allows residents to receive their invoices and pay said invoices on time. Indigent residents will access free basic services by registering on the city's expanded social package database. As a city, we must also play ball, because achieving financial sustainability requires that this administration also practice financial discipline by firstly putting in place austerity measures that do not hamper service delivery but cut away at excess, like the reduction of staff serving the executive and curbing unnecessary travel, catering, and venue hire. Secondly, outside of rates, taxes, and levies, departments have been tasked with ensuring that all revenue collection programs under their authority are enforced. At this point, I will allow the members of the mayoral committee represented here to speak about their specific programs, starting with the MMC for Housing, MMC Mlungisi Mabaso.
Thank you very much, EM, colleagues. My name is Mlungisi Mabaso, the MMC for Housing. Over the past 2 years, the country went through the challenging economic times. All sectors of economy experienced negative growth except health and information technology industries and few others. The negative impact had a direct effect on businesses and institutions that generate their revenue from income earned from its customers. As companies reduce salaries for their employees and in certain instances, retrenching. As a social housing entity owned by the City of Johannesburg, Joshco has experienced negative impact of the economic slowdown as tenants fail to pay their rent in full. Overall, we are currently sitting at 196 million owned by the tenants, excluding the last month billing, which might go over 200 million. We have and we will continue to call on all affected tenants to approach us to make payment arrangements to settle their accounts. However, those who ignore our call to make payment arrangements leave us with no option but to approach courts to get legal relief to execute evictions. We are aware that other tenants took advantage of COVID-19 and decided to boycott rent. Hence, they don't come to make payment arrangements. Some are demanding ownership, knowing very well that lease agreements they agreed on, in line with Social Housing Act, does not provide for ownership. We have now reached level 1 of COVID-19 regulations, and it has provided Joshco with an opportunity to execute eviction without hesitation. Our legal team has been charged with the responsibility to obtain more eviction orders from the court. As a city-owned entity, it is important that we are self-sustainable to be able to maintain our current facilities and build new social housing units to provide shelter to those families that are in need of affordable rental houses. As part of our revenue drive, we call on all tenants to ensure that there is full compliance on lease agreements that are in place. Our current correction rate is at 56% against a target of 85%. Through the revenue drive program, we are expecting to reach 75% before the end of the financial year. Thank you very much, Ian.
Thank you, MMC. Next, I'll call upon MMC Nkuli Mbundu, the MMC for Economic Development, who's also responsible for Joburg Property Company, MTC, the Metro Trading Company, as well as the Joburg Market.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good morning to all the colleagues. Madam Mayor, I am going to deviate from script. I think I need to speak from the heart. We've got a challenge. We've got a massive, massive challenge of entities that have been hijacked. In particular, the Joburg Property Company, which is the largest property owner in the city of Johannesburg. I must just state that I have no confidence in the board and the executive. That entity has been hijacked. It is riddled with cadre deployment. It is riddled with corruption. It is riddled with victimization. That entity is not serving the city for its intended purpose. It is run by a criminal gang. Last night, I received a report, a financial report in terms of what is being owed by the Joburg Property Company. And the total amount is about 140 million rands, made up of 9 million rands of government institutions, 62 million rands of informal traders, 21 million rands in residential, 45 million rands in commercial, and only 1.4 million in outdoor advertising. These numbers could be easily 10 times. I don't trust anything that comes from that entity. As a matter of fact, I cannot wait for a new board to come on board and deal with cleaning up that entity. That institution belongs to the ratepayers. It does not belong to politicians. It does not belong to corrupt business people. I'm afraid that I cannot give you hardcore numbers because I don't trust the numbers that I've got here. But I know that they run into billions. Initially, I was told that we've got 10,000 properties. Then we later discovered we've got 29,000 properties. Of late, I was told we've got 56,000 properties. In there are properties that are undervalued, leases that are going for 500 rands per year, prime land, 500 rands per year on prime land in Region E. Take a moment to think about it. Who pays 500 rands a year in Sandton? Now, what's happening in this institution is they give leases to their friends at ridiculously undervalued amounts, who then flip and sublease at exponential amounts, which then comes back as legitimate rental income. Let me give you an example. You get a lease for 500 rands on a prime property, and then you go and you rent it out for 100,000 rands. And that is seen as income, legitimate income. That is why a lot of top politicians, and I'm talking about top politicians, are frequently at the Joburg Property Company, literally in the building. It is probably one of the biggest heist that you would have seen in the city. Properties hijacked and commercialized for the wrong reasons. We are about to undergo a detailed property audit to ensure that we know the number of leases that are active, the values of the leases against the value of the property, and to do a readjustment of those numbers to ensure that we can collect the right amount of money for that property. Secondly, the Joburg Property Company has got the rights to do outdoor advertising. There's a contract that expired in 2017. Up until now, the city is not collecting any money. And yet there are adverts on those street posts. We are told that they cannot go into contract because there's an issue around bylaws and so on, but somebody is collecting money for that. So we are going to do an asset audit of outdoor advertising, potentially reallocating outdoor advertising or rather moving it from JPC. It's not their core mandate. They are not in the advertising space. Their role is to do facilities management. What are they doing with outdoor advertising? What are they doing? They've gathered up a whole lot of functions that they're failing to deliver on, and they're feeding corrupt business, corrupt politicians. And I'm talking about big business. Big business. So here we are in a battle, on the one side with corrupt politicians, on the other side with corrupt big business. It is a problem that we're facing. But it is not a problem that is insurmountable. We are not afraid. We are going to go after them. And I want to tell them and the people that they report to that we are not afraid. We will take them on. It is game over. This will never happen again. City of Johannesburg and our entities belong to ratepayers and taxpayers. They do not belong to some schemes and some politicians and some rogue businesses. The time is up. They know themselves, and we're going to go after them. While at it, I just informed the mayoral committee that I received death threats yesterday. Funny enough, I'm not afraid. Why? Because we are taking action against them. Interestingly enough, because we fired the chair. And a week later, I'm told that I must watch my movements. I'm not afraid. They must know. We are going to fix the city. We're going to take the city back. No amount of threat is going to stop us. I don't care how powerful they are. I don't care how rogue they are. I don't care how dangerous they are. We are going to take it back. We're going to reclaim our city. This is not a playground for criminals. So I can't talk about numbers because I don't trust these numbers. It's 140 million, could be 1.4 billion, it could be 14 billion. So I'm not even going to lie and try to give you numbers, but I can tell you now that the minute we take control of that entity, we will be able to realize the real value that has been hidden. So, action plans. Yesterday, we concluded the interviews of the new board that's coming in on the 15th of February. And the new board will have an explicit mandate to clean out and clean up that environment and do a proper assessment. Following that, we're going to do an institutional review, do a skills audit. There are people with standard 8 that are general managers. Standard 8. GM. Think about it. Earning millions because they're deployed. So that entity has been captured by criminals, and the board is complicit in doing this thing. So I'm glad that we are coming into an end of that board, and that's why one of the reasons why we brought the AGM a month forward. It was meant to be in March. We brought it into Feb because we can't wait. As a matter of fact, I can't wait. I wish it was Monday coming. We're going to fix it. We'll do an analysis. We'll do an institutional review. We'll do an asset audit. And we'll come back and report on what we have found. I'm afraid, again, that I cannot give you numbers, Madam Mayor, because I don't trust them. But I know that once we've done this, we will be able to communicate to the public the real value of this asset. And once again, I'm saying it, we are not afraid. We will take you on. No amount of threats is going to take us out. It's game over. They must know we are dealing with criminals here. Hardcore criminals that have captured our city. Not in our lifetime. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, MMC Mbundu. MMC Mbundu, very passionate there because of the things that he's uncovering in his portfolio. We are dealing with these things, and General Sibiya will speak to us later about the work that he's doing within Group Forensic Investigation Services to make sure that we root out corruption in this institution. Next, I'm going to call upon the MMC for Environment and Infrastructure, who's responsible for the utilities, city power, Joburg Water, Pick It Up, as well as the environment. Thank you, MMC San.
Good morning, everybody. When the executive mayor introduced me as the MMC for City Power, Joburg Water, and Pick It Up, I thought of a new name for myself. I'm the MMC for grudge tax that our residents don't like to pay. I just want to take you away from this venue for a second and take you to a very small country between Hawaii and Australia, a place called Tuvalu. Tuvalu has the smallest economy of the world. The annual GDP last year was about $70 million, just a little over R1 billion. Now, we've spent the holiday now. I want you to please come back here. The businesses, the residents, including government, as our executive mayor said, national and provincial government, jointly owe the city of Joburg, in terms of water, 14.8 billion rand. This is almost 15 times more than the annual GDP of a country. Then I go to City Power. We are owed, over 90 days, 7.3 billion rand. And that's not the full amount. And this is the challenge we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen, that residents see this as a grudge tax. They say the government must provide. We will always fight with the government, with the city council. We'll find reasons, frivolous sometimes genuine, sometimes very important, that we're going to dispute these accounts. But very often, these payments end up to be 30 days, 60 days. My colleague MMC Finance, Julie Sudabi, will tell you that we often see accounts in excess of 120 days. And then it falls into the gaps. When our teams from City Power and Joburg Water do rock up to disconnect, all of a sudden we as the public representatives are called that we are fighting our own residents. We do not want to provide water and lights. I want to continue to give you some figures. Now, in terms of City Power, your large power users and your small businesses combined owes the city 4 billion rand. Your residential, your houses, your homes, 3.2 billion rand. The disputed accounts that we are not able to immediately collect or disconnect, we're looking at 500 million rand. It's a big figure, but there's something that we will certainly manage. But the one thing that I really want to highlight and echo what Executive Mayor said, that across the board, 96 other governmental departments and organizations, parastatals, owe the City of Johannesburg 170 million rand, undisputed. In other words, 170 million rand that they must pay. Yesterday, we learned that the Gauteng provincial government, sitting with its treasury, 10 billion rand that they have, that they can use, but they don't want to pay water and electricity to the city of Joburg. Now, this creates a problem. Residents of Joburg, you see, we as the city government, as a local government, we provide services. In my department of water and lights and Pick It Up, we cannot continue to do so unless we get revenue, because we have to go buy electricity from entities such as Eskom. We have to go buy electricity from entities such as REM Water. We don't get it for free. So in terms of those outputs, we must certainly collect monies. And of course, those monies will be used for other purposes. We fix roads, we fix street lights, we put metro police on the roads to ensure that the criminals are being deterred. There's a whole lot of stuff we do as a city, but without money, the city cannot move. And again, I go back to the example of a grudge tax. I can assure you when people's DSTV or Netflix accounts are being switched off, the first thing they do is that they go to the internet banking, they pay, because they want that entertainment. But water and lights do not seem to be the most important thing. But this is a much bigger picture in managing the city, managing its finances. To quote the mayor, the city must also play ball. Joburg Water, City Power, pick it up, we must play ball. The measures we'll be taking on ourselves, number one, is to ensure that we reduce your non-technical losses. We already started the fight, the war against cable theft, damage to infrastructure. We don't need to spend unnecessary amounts of money, millions, to fix a damaged substation because of illegal connections. We need to ensure that our water pipes are being guarded so that they don't get damaged unnecessarily. We need to go out, exercise more diligence in terms of credit control policies. We'll be working very closely with the finance team to ensure that when residents or businesses or whomever comes to us and say, as a customer, I got a query on the account, we're able to produce evidence to say, yes, it was our fault, we maybe have not read the meter every month, this is a correct reading, let us rectify, but please do pay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm in a business suit today, so I'm going to be business-like and ask that this is our city. It's not the mayor's city, it's not the MMC's city, it's not the chief of police city, it's our city. We need to together ensure that we manage and look after our infrastructure. We need to ensure that we give the right resources, the fair resources, back to the city, so those resources and those monies can be put back into the community to build infrastructures, to service our residents. But on the tougher side, I must also ensure that those delinquent customers that don't like to pay, as soon as we finish the briefing today, I believe the mayor is going to lead us. We are coming to you. It's not a threat, but it's a firm request to say that we need your cooperation, we need your assistance as much as you need ours. So let's work together to ensure that the city of Johannesburg shines golden again. The city of Johannesburg residents are always the priority of our list. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MMC Sun. Operation Buya Mthetho is a citywide law enforcement operation, and the central coordination of Buya Mthetho sits within Revenue. The Department of Revenue is responsible for collecting revenue from all departments and entities or on their behalf. But there's also a department that's integral to our ability to enforce the law, and that's public safety. They are the key custodians of law enforcement and also quite crucial to our Buya Mthetho operation. Next, I would like to call upon MMC Tembe, who is going to speak to us about how the JMPD is going to ensure that there is law enforcement in Johannesburg and that our officials are supported and protected by our JMPD officers while they go about enforcing the law.
Thanks. Okay. Thank you, EM. The rule of law regulates how people conduct themselves. The absence of it or lack of enforcement of the rule of law becomes a culture of impunity. Where there are no consequences for criminals, people become law unto themselves. They do as they please. Any law, including bylaw, if not enforced, is as good as non-existent. We have no choice but to enforce our laws if they are to be respected. That is how we create a culture in which there is a rule of law. We, as public safety, we are going to enforce this law consistently, with respect, and constitutionally. It starts with small things like spitting, urinating in the street. If you allow people to urinate everywhere without any consequences, you may as well forget about crime prevention. When Lee Kuan-yew started to build Singapore, he introduced an anti-spitting law and imposed fine. You'll pay a fine or stay in jail for spitting saliva in the street of Singapore. Today, Singapore is one of the most beautiful and cleanest cities in the world. We, as JMPD, under the multi-party government, will make sure that the city of Johannesburg is one of the best. We can't be beaten by Kigali in Rwanda, as the city of Johannesburg will ensure that we do that. In Singapore, they used to punish the most senior people to make example to the rest of society. For example, when a deputy minister went on a holiday that was paid up by the businessman, he was arrested at the airport upon arrival and sent straight to jail. The message was clear. It was zero tolerance on corruption. Madam Mayor, it is very clear that some of the customers of the city are not paying their services because they are working in cahoots with our own city officials. The culture of corruption has fastened through the system. For an example, in licensing, the General Buya, yesterday, if not day before yesterday, has arrested some of our people who are working there. Our own officials who are selling licenses. Imagine if you sell a license to a person who can't even drive. Then we wonder, why did we have 70 people who died during the Christmas time? Our Metro Police, it's perceived that they are notorious for asking cold drink. I think Angie is listening very carefully on this one. Some are collecting fees from street vendors. Some of the police are collecting money for the buildings that have been hijacked in the inner city. So it must start with us. But let me be clear, Mthetho is back under the multi-party government. Ubuyile Mthetho. We will not tolerate officials taking bribe. We are reviving the anti-bribe unit and strengthening our undercover unit to fight corruption. I had a serious meeting with General Buya with this regard on how we are going to involve IPID, SAPS, the Hawks, having a unit that will drive around, ensure that corruption in our city and in our ranks is taken care of. We'll be arresting our own officers and officials to send a strong message out there that we mean business. Soon, we'll start having what we call it smart roadblock, because we're doing this to ensure that everybody pay his dues. Public safety is owed 86 million, of which 42 million is money belonging to JMPD and 33 million is owed to EMS. Madam Mayor, I wouldn't like to mention names, but we are not here to mention names of the people who are owing us. From Monday, we'll be on their backs. Pay now or face the consequences. Public safety is not there to collect money. Public safety is there to save life. And how do you save life? You save life because you create consequences for those who break the rule of law. Madam Mayor, Our core business is to ensure the safety of our people and enforce the rule of law. However, we'll be putting measures to enhance law enforcement on one hand while generating revenue on the other. We must make those who transgress to pay their dues. Operation Buya Mthetho is already on the ground, and our law enforcement officers will be an integral part in ensuring that those who connect our electricity and water illegally or who fail to pay are cut off. We'll soon be implementing speed control contract on our roads. I have to mention this. As I've said, 70 people died in Johannesburg. It has never happened because people know that there are no speed cameras on our road. So they drive recklessly. We are going to introduce again not Buya Mthetho, Operation Nomaganjani under Buya Mthetho. If you drive recklessly, when it comes to infrastructure, whereby the robots are just damaged, either by drunken drivers or reckless drivers, or people who steal cables, because now they are targeting our robots. Just imagine how many people died because our infrastructure are being damaged. Hijacked buildings will be restored to their rightful owners. We want our people to walk freely in our streets and our children to play safe in the parks. We had a very, very good discussion with the MMC Harris, who's responsible for the parks, that if we do it right, we will monitor our parks using horses, not cars, because people must be able to talk to our officers in that regard. Street vendors and traders must comply, and everyone must have legitimate identification. I'm working very closely with MMC Bundu so that we ensure that you can't police what you don't have. Because right now, what is JMPD asking for? We will ask for the identification that you own this place, but only to find that you don't have that thing. We will bring an end to illegal dumping. As you know, that illegal dumping is a scourge in our city. Everywhere I can show you now where people are doing illegal dumping. We will impound your vehicles when you do illegal dumping, and the fine of 10,000 will be imposed. So we want to make it very clear under this multi-party government that Buya Mthetho will have a zero tolerance to such behavior. As you already know, we have deployed 1,800 officers in the inner city for Buya Mthetho. Others are complaining that we have taken these 1,800 from the regions. It is not so. These are the ones who passed in 2019, and they were deemed to be not qualified. They didn't have firearms, they didn't have infrastructure, so we take them while we were training them into the inner city until we get their infrastructure number. Let us work together to restore law and order in our city. Buya Mthetho. Thank you, MMC.
Buya Mthetho, indeed, MC Tembe. As you can see, there's lots of avenues to issue fines and bring more revenue into the city. And through Operation Buya Mthetho, that's going to happen as we strengthen law enforcement. But there's the MMC for Finance, who's responsible for finance, billing, and revenue, who must make sure that money indeed comes in. And that's MMC Sadabi. MMC Julie Sadabi will come and tell us what initiatives she will be driving to ensure that we're bringing in the revenue that needs to come into the city. Thank you, MMC Sadabi.
Thank you, Executive Mayor, and good morning to the residents of Johannesburg. I'm Councillor Julie Sadabi, the MMC for Finance. Johannesburg is the city of gold. It is the beating heart of the South African economy. Sadly, that did not shield from the repercussions of the COVID pandemic. But even before the COVID pandemic hit us in March 2020, the country had already suffered 2 months of economic recession. But none of this is news. And we are here standing at the crossroads, and we can choose to accept the status quo, or we can embrace the golden start. My team and I have developed a two-pronged strategy that will ultimately lead to economic recovery in our Golden City. It is already known, and you have heard, that many of our customers owe Johannesburg an enormous amount of money. The money that is owed to the city of Johannesburg is no longer counted in millions of rands. It is now counted in billions of rands that are owed to the city of Johannesburg. And it's not feasible to think that the city can deliver services to the residents of Johannesburg when we are short of billions of rands. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to say, we are here today to collect. We have identified the top 100 customers of all different categories, government, business, residents, who owe us the most for the longest time. That has been said before, it's not disputed. We've tried, we've negotiated, we've spoken, and there are people who still refuse to pay. So starting from today, electricity supply will be cut. If you are able and willing to pay your municipal account, your services will be cut. No exceptions and no holy cows. We will have a war room set up where our staff will phone customers to request payment for those who are in arrears between 30 and 60 days, and we will have attorneys who will call those who owe us for longer than 90 days to attempt to recover the money that is owed to this city legally. Services cannot be provided without finance. Something might be free to you, but it is not free to everybody. Everything must be paid for. And we request that those who use the City of Johannesburg services, that you pay your fair share. Our multi-party government is a caring government. And so while there are those who do have the means to pay but are unwilling, we acknowledge that there are very many who are unable to pay. COVID has hit us badly. For 2 years, people have not had jobs. And we understand that. And so while we are aggressively looking and talking to those who are willing, who are unwilling, but able to pay, we will find those who are not able to pay. And those we will encourage to apply for our extended social package, commonly known as the ESP. And that will allow rebates and also access to special social services to assist those residents. And then as well, subject to council approval on the 24th of February, we will be reopening our debt rehabilitation program. This is a collaborative process whereby upon commitment of our customer to continue to pay their current amount, that the city will write off a portion of the arrears. Then our second focus on our recovery strategy is after having received the money that is owed us, we will make sure that every rand that is spent by the city, we get value for money for. Corrupt tenderpreneurs and fraudsters have had a field day. Tenders have been doled out to friends and family. They charge the city far too much for services they rarely deliver. We are overcharged. We don't get what we pay for. And if the contract does have a penalty clause, that is really punitive. Those days are over. To stop the money hemorrhaging from our city, we will be centralizing, integrating, and automating the entire purchasing value chain. We will bring the whole of the purchasing value chain into the 21st century, not only to ensure that tenders are awarded correctly, but also to allow for meaningful oversight and to create opportunities that are fair for all of the businesses of our city, not just for a select few. So in short, ladies and gentlemen, and residents of Johannesburg, this team, this term, is 100% focused on serving you, the residents of Johannesburg. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the MMCs of the Joburg multi-party government. I think it's clear to everyone that Joburg does not have a money problem. There's a lot of money in the city. It's just about how we get organized internally to be able to bill correctly, collect that money and make sure it's coming in and it's serving you, the residents of the city. But we also have a big problem in Johannesburg, and that's corruption, as alluded to by MMC Mbundu earlier. And I would like to now call upon General Shadrack Sibiya, who is the head of the Joburg Group Forensic and Investigation Services Unit. They are our corruption combating arsenal. They've been doing incredible work, and we will continue to support them and make sure that they root out corruption and that your money works for you. General Sibiya.
Thank you, Executive Mayor. Good morning, everyone. My name is General Shadrack Sibiya. I'm the Group Head for Forensic and Investigation Service of the City of Joburg. My mandate mainly is to fight fraud and corruption in the city, theft of city asset, maladministration, as well as hijacked properties. Ladies and gentlemen, since the establishment of Group Forensics, we've registered almost over 7,000 cases in the city of Joburg. Out of these 7,000 cases, it consists mainly of fraud and corruption, maladministration, and theft of city assets, as well as hijacked properties. The city has lost billions as a result of fraud and corruption, especially within our supply chain space. In our supply chain space, revenue space, where we have to collect, hijacked properties where people continue to consume services without paying. There are syndicates that are working with our officials in different environments, be it within your supply chain space, with revenue, where you go to City Power, Joburg Water. We have different malls and estates, developers who are not paying for the services. We have identified such, and as Group Forensics, we are working well with our other law enforcement agencies. We are working with other stakeholders within the city of Joburg, and we will be coming for you. We will be making sure that we make your space too small. We have identified you and will be coming for you. We are concerned about the supply chain management processes. There is continuous abuse of Regulation 32 and Regulation 36, where the officials find every reason to bypass the system and to make sure that they don't follow, they deviate all the time. They deviate. They don't want to do anything the right way, the way it should be done. So we have identified some of the syndicates that are operating in the system, and we are busy conducting our investigations. And I can tell you for sure that very soon we will be acting on them. My message is that we are going to be fighting fraud and corruption like we are fighting wildfire. We are going to focus, and Operation Buya Mthetho on a weekly basis will be operating, will be out there in the street, making sure that we approach those malls, the shopping complexes that are not paying. There's no reason why a shopping complex would not pay for the services consumed, or an estate, a whole estate. We know them, we've identified them, and we will be approaching them. Those that can come and approach the city and make arrangement, they are welcome. But if you don't come, we do know you, we are aware where you are, we will be coming for you. In a nutshell, what I want to say is that there is a lot of impunity in the city, and the city is operating more like a criminal enterprise. In each and every department, everyone is just dealing with impunity. And we must work together in making sure that we put an end to this. With those few words, I just want to say thank you, EM, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have come to the end of our presser. I'd really like to commend the MMCs and the multi-party government for their commitment and dedication to serving our residents, for being alert and vigilant, identifying leaks in the system, putting in place governance processes and systems to ensure that every cent works for the residents of our city. I would also like to appeal to our residents as we will be starting to forcefully enforce Buya Mthetho, to please work with us. We're not against you. We are coming for the money that is owed to the city, and we're coming for that money because you need that money. You need us to render services to you, and without that money, we will not be able to. So look out for us. Please make arrangements, those of you who can. If you cannot pay, please access the debt rehabilitation program as soon as it's reopened. If you're indigent, please register on the city's expanded social package so you can access free basic services. But anybody with ability to pay, we will be coming after you to make sure that we recover all monies owed to the city. Thank you very much. We'll now open for questions and answers. Thank you for the questions. The first one was on whether or not the city has its ducks in a row and whether we're sorting out our internal issues. Indeed, we are. I believe MMC Sadabi did allude to some of the changes that we will be implementing. But just to give you an example with billing, we've spent time with the MMCs looking at what the issue is with billing currently. And there was two schools of thought. The one was that billing worked better when each entity was doing its own billing and managing its own customer interface. But the other school of thought is there's some merit to centralizing billing, provided that we also centralize data management and we manage data flow. And what we're leaning towards is that we need centralized data management because that's going to have it's going to have other positive spin-offs in the rest of the institution if we're able to manage our data centrally. The MMC for Finance is also responsible for group ICT, and she will be driving that process. It will require a review of our shareholder policy That's the policy that manages how the city interfaces with the entities. And that process is starting. So we will ensure that there's also better oversight over the entities, because what we're also picking up is a lot of the losses are happening at entity level, where the city manager does not have proper oversight over what is happening in the entities. In the procurement space, they manage their own procurement. It's a mess. And the city is bleeding money as a result. So yes, there is a lot of work that we are busy with to ensure that internally our governance structures are intact and that they're well capacitated to make sure the city runs well and that we're not losing any money. Now, in terms of Region F, of course, we don't want to mention names of companies, but these are factories, these are big businesses, buildings that are owned by private individuals that owe money to the city. Are we prepared for the backlash? Well, yes, we are. The city has been very kind to our residents and our customers at large. We've given options. We've spoken about the debt rehabilitation program, and what that is that we offer to write off debt to people who really cannot afford to pay. But we don't just want to write it off, we want to rehabilitate them so that we turn them into paying customers. And how we do that is we write off 50%, we give you 12 months to start paying consistently, and if you can demonstrate a commitment to consistent payment after the 12-month period, we then write off the other 50% of your historic debt. And that way we would have rehabilitated you going forward, and you'll become a ratepayer in the city of Johannesburg. So that's one option. For our indigent, we've got the expanded social package. As you know, depending on your income, we do give you options to access free basic services. So I think we've been fair, but we also realize that there are people who are able to pay, they've got capacity to pay, and they just don't want to pay. And those ones, unfortunately, we will be going after. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your questions. With respect to the billing crisis, the city sends out almost 1 million bills a month. The current queries per month is 3,000. That's 3% of the accounts elicit a query every month. I wouldn't call that a crisis. I understand that for each person who has a problem and needs to deal with the city about their problem, to each of those people, it is a crisis. And we accept that, and we are working towards customer centralizing our walk-in centers so that anyone who walks into the city who has a query will be treated with respect, and their query will be dealt with diligently and assessed and resolved as quickly as is feasible. With respect to the contracts, if a contract, for example, you have a contract for 72 million rand over a period of 3 years, it is seeking an SLA with a maximum penalty of 15% for less than 70% of the work delivered. That gives that business 20 million rand per year over 3 years for delivering less than 70% of the scope of work. That's nice business. I'd like to have some of that. We can't allow that to happen. It is not acceptable. And while as the city we are committed to supporting our small businesses who want to do business with us, and we have a lot of money to dispense on work that needs to be done, we need to make sure that the city gets value for the money they are spending. An organization the size of Johannesburg, with over 4 million residents and 42,000 employees, cannot operate on less than 70% of delivery of our suppliers who are supposed to supply us with services and goods. It cannot continue. It is not sustainable. The city is bleeding while unscrupulous people are growing rich. Thank you.
Mthetho, thank you very much for your question. I think it's an issue that we must look at straight into the eyes. As I've said earlier on, that we need to play ball. We can't go and say you owe us money, and that the residents say that, but you know your meters are not correct. So we will definitely be going out to the customers. At the same time that we collect, we're going to go educate and say, if you know your water meter hasn't been read for months, please come forward. If your electricity meter hasn't been read for months, come forward. Or if you suspect your neighbor is connecting water illegally, or you suspect that your neighbor has never paid electricity, come forward. So those ducks we need to get into a row. I'm also here with my colleague from City Power, our acting CEO, Tsifalaro Mashava, and also with Ncheveni. Ncheveni, where are you sitting? Oh, you're sitting there. The MD for Joburg Water, MD Mkhetho. We're going to go out and actively deal with these issues. Hence, that's why I mentioned the figure earlier on that in terms of City Power, you know, out of the 7 billion rand we're looking at outstanding, there's a 500 million rand disputed account that we will certainly look at. We need to be fair as the city to say to our residents that, and our customers to say that if you have a concern, let us help you deal with it. MMC Finance has said that you know, there are processes, whether you can pay or you can't pay, there's a genuine problem. But what we don't accept, Tsepo, is that we don't accept because there is a process, then customers get smart and they abuse the process to say, I'm putting in a dispute, I'm not going to pay you for the next 3 months, I'm going to enjoy free water and free electricity. That's where it hits the city very hard. So just shortly from me is that we're going to deal with these issues. Illegal connections we must deal with. Meter readings, we must ensure that those are correct. And in terms of escalating queries on accounts, that we will certainly entertain, provided that it is legitimate, it's reasonable, it's genuine, and we certainly want to resolve those in the shortest turnaround time possible. So we do both the residents and ourselves a favor. Thank you.
Thanks, Tsepo, for asking this question. I like it because I have to make it clear, because they might say that we bring back speed cameras to generate money. It is not true. All over the world, it is known that speeding has killed a lot of people. In Johannesburg, as I've said, people knew that we don't have speed cameras. And therefore, we had 70 people who died this Christmas. It doesn't always make sense whereby people know that we don't have. I've seen people speeding on N1, and we had operations, especially with SABC attending in one of our operations, where you can see that even if they see there are police, they will drive very fast. But these cameras must be accompanied by visible policing. We want to ensure that when you drive from Midrand or drive from Tshwane coming to Johannesburg, every 15 kilometers, there is a metro police with blue lights. Our aim is to reduce fatalities in Johannesburg by 50%. When it comes to the issue of, in fact, well, I want to the issue of licensing. Lot of people who are involved in accidents, you will find that they don't have genuine licenses. As I've said, that the general has just arrested yesterday some people who bought a license, who doesn't even know how to drive. Some of them, they don't even know where the ignition is. But then I heard Minister Mbalula say that the machine is back because we have got no control as the city is. Even in our multi-government, we'll do our best to ensure that we keep this issue of corruption in our midst. Thanks very much.
Brother, the reality here is that the city does not have, or at least I'm not aware, of a whistleblower policy. Neither do we have a VIP protection policy. All we have is a counselor protection policy. And that also just looks at me as an individual. So how this thing operates is that, and I'm quoting what MMC San said when we started this thing, to say, they will try to bribe you. If they fail, they will frame you. If they fail, they will harm you. And how do they harm you? They harm you through your vulnerable spot, which is your family. So my family is exposed. It is exposed, right? We don't have protection. Because of policy issues, right? There is a threat assessment that is now underway. The reality is that we depend on state security to run the threat assessment. We don't have the capacity to do it as at a city level. And just this morning, state security cancelled on me, telling me that they're busy. They want to do another date. We registered this about 7 weeks ago. 7 weeks later, they canceled on me this morning. I'm on a call with this guy, and I'm saying to him, look, I've received a threat. This is urgent. He says, sorry, I cannot do anything. I'm busy. So state security is failing us. The challenge is we can deploy additional security, but what about other whistleblowers? I can't have a privileged position over a community as well that is doing whistleblowing. It can't be that because I'm an MMC or I'm a city employee, then I have privileged security. What about other whistleblowers? It means it must apply across the board. So we're in a conundrum. It's a difficult space to be in. Look, I've got excellent protectors. Excellent protectors that look after me every day, but my family is exposed. It is a reality. But I also take the view that if they want to get you, they will get you. No amount of security is going to protect you. These guys come with AK-47s. What do you do when a car rocks up on the side with an AK-47 and my car doesn't have bulletproof windows? I know my protectors will do their best to protect me, but it's not enough. My kids are exposed, my wife is exposed, and I know it sounds irresponsible, but it's the nature of the job that we took. I'm not deterred. I'm not going to stop. I've lost family members. I've seen my uncles die at the hands of the apartheid government. So I'm not afraid. I'm really not afraid. I've resolved. I know it sounds irresponsible, but I've got that resolve to say, if you want to come after me, come after me. That's why I'm going hard at them, and I'm going to go even harder. If you do it proper. Don't do it in bits. It's only just starting. Because it started already. So if they do it, they do it. But at least I know that I would have done it for my country, done it for my city. So I'm quite okay. I used to get panic attacks. The Maycom will tell you, I used to have issues when I just started in the job, to say, sort my security out, and, lengthy conversations with the general to say, I am panicking, and throw a panic. But I'm resolved now. Now I'm okay. The general will tell you, it's been long since I raised any issue. They know my address, they know my home, they know where my kids go to school, they know where my office is. If I want to do it, let them do it. But we're not going to stop. We are going to take them out. We are going to take them out one by one. We will be the government that puts people in orange overalls. We will do it. National government has failed. Through many commissions of inquiry, spending a lot of money, no one is in jail. No one that's meaningful is in jail. Under our watch, they are going to jail. They are going to jail, I promise you. Officials and politicians are going to see orange overalls. It's going to happen. Like I say, so this is not a playground for criminals. No amount of threat is going to stop us. But, you know, we do take a reasonable amount of precaution as best as we possibly can. But bottom line is we're not afraid. We're not. And I know them. I know them. I know who they are. But it's the nature of the job, right? So if you're not going to do this thing proper, you might as well not do it. I didn't leave my corporate job to join this difficult job to be mediocre. I joined it because I was intent on fixing our country. And we are going to fix our country. It is going to happen. They have no option. It's the future of our children. It's the future of our generations. It's going to happen. I think they should be more worried than we are. But that's it. It is, you know, we'll do as best as we can. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the question. All I wanted to say is that I'm happy to hear that this problem of the malls and the shopping complexes come as far back as during the time of former Mayor Paxtau. But what I wanted to tell you is that we've done a lot. We've been to the Waterfall estate, they know us. We've been to Dane Fen, they know us. We've been to Stain City, they know us. We've been to Baragwanath, Charlotte Maklake, and if you remember very well, we've also arrested in the devaluations matter, where we arrested our officials, where there are up to 22 buildings involved in the city of Joburg, high-rising buildings, where we're dealing with the officials, the owners of the buildings as well. The matter is currently at court. I hope I responded to your question, but we are doing a lot. Thank you.